Welcome to the Academy for Men's Hot Seat Conversations with Lori Handlers.
Great, and Academy for Men is a division of Butterfly Workshops. So today we're going to talk about communication, like the essentials of communication, like how it's missed often, and when it's missed, it's really missed.
And the missing part of it is that the communication seems to be difficult between men and women. Men asking for what they want, and women also asking for what they want in the moment while you're having sex or while you're pleasuring each other. Let's talk about how that usually happens.
Want sex, like people hint, they do this. Like I just saw this thing on Facebook where some people I know were in a restaurant and next to them were people on a first date, and a condom had dropped out of the guy's pocket, the guy on the first date.
Oh.
And the people that I know, like sex experts, saw the condom on the floor of the restaurant and didn't know how to hand it back to him because they realized he was on a first date. So if they just like handed it across, here's your condom, like the guy would have gotten embarrassed, or the woman might have gotten mad, so they didn't know what to do. So they wrapped it in a napkin, and they handed it to him, and they said, "Here's something. You dropped something." And then he looked, and he went, "Oh my, there's my condom." He like put it back. And they were wondering how other people would have handled that and what they should have done. And I was in Facebook jail, so I couldn't write back, but. But what I want to say is this. The protocols for dating are so ridiculous that a man cannot have a condom in his pocket. Thank you for having a condom in your pocket. Thank you for wanting to have safe sex. And thanks for honoring me that way. And you don't even know whether we're going to have sex or not, but you came prepared. Thank you.
Just in case,
So I felt like you could have sex on a first date. Who cares? Well, our whole protocols for dating and for sexing are off. They're so, they're prehistoric.
They are.
They're from the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so and that leads into, well, how do I ask for sex? So if I were to ask you for sex, especially if we were on a first date, maybe we're vibing or whatever, how would that, how would one do that? How would one breach or broach that topic?
I like direct. I like someone to say, I'm into you. I think you're attractive. I think you're hot. I'd like to spend more time with you. I'd like to get physically closer to you, and I'd like to get to know you inside and out. So I not only want to touch you, but I want to touch your mind too.
Okay.
I want to touch your mind, I want to touch your heart, and I want to touch your genitals. Yay! That's like a triple header. I want someone who wants to do all that. And sometimes I don't.
Yeah. And how do you think women would normally respond to something like that?
I think they've been taught to not respond positively to that. And I think we need to unlearn that and actually respond positively to that. Somebody who takes an interest in the whole person. And
I think the idea is that for the most part, some women may feel like they're a slut, or they may get slut shamed for wanting to have sex. And oftentimes, I think it's what we're told. It's what we're told. You got to wait till the third date or the second date or the fifth date.
He has to buy you this amount of dinners.
You got to put a ring on it.
Because if he doesn't buy this amount of dinners, he's not showing commitment. It's too easy. Don't give the milk away from the cow.
He's not going to buy the cow if the milk is free.
Right, exactly.
Correct.
My mother always said that.
Well, so that's the current state of affairs. But having a little bit more honesty about our own sexuality, I think, is needed. And there is a situation where it sometimes feels like even just asking for sex could be considered a broach of personal space, a predatory.
Yes.
Right.
Didn't I just get an email?
You did, in fact, and that's interesting. Talk about that.
I think people don't understand boundaries and negotiating safe sex. So if a man or a woman says, I would like to touch you intimately, would that be okay with you? That's a yes or no answer. I get to be sovereign and say yes or no. You can't touch me like that yet. Or you can't ever touch me like that. Or no, not now, maybe later. Or I have a primary partner. I need to check in with my partner to see if that would be okay if you touch me that way. But that's a boundary question, and that's a safe and fair question. I'm into you. I want to touch you. I want to touch your breasts. I want to touch your yoni. Would that be okay? That is not a violation of boundaries.
Right. That's a questioning of where are your boundaries at?
Exactly.
So that I don't violate
I
them.
might say at first, to set it up, could we talk boundaries?
Yeah. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
What a communication that could be. And imagine being able to say that to somebody in a safe space, right?
Yeah.
So allowing you to make that choice as to whether or not that's something you'd be interested in, or if you wanted to negotiate the whole, premise. So I think it's important in communication, not only from the front end, how do I ask, but then once you get past that and there is agreement, a consent, right? And I like to say, consent is the beginning of good sex. Consent is always revocable. But I also say
consent.
that consent. Don't have sex without it. It's very important.
It is. So, but people misunderstand what that is. So I got an email saying that somebody asked to touch someone intimately, and the person said that the person that he asked said he violated her boundaries, and he didn't. If he just grabbed her,
Yep.
he would have violated her boundaries. But he was having a conversation, and she could say no.
Yeah. The violation of boundaries happens when there is no consent. But if you're asking for consent, no violation has happened at that point. And I think that's important to understand. But I think that because being asked or being communicated in that way can often feel predatory, or even feel like, because that person's not used to that kind of communication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're used to just hinting, buying the dinners, going to the dinners,
Oh,
batting
signals,
eyelashes.
little signals.
Signals,
Uh-huh.
right.
No,
If I don't make eye contact with, if I make eye contact with, I told you one. A man told me that when I touched his leg, there was a clear signal that I wanted to have sex with him, and I was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I just was having a conversation with you. I'm from New York. I touched your leg, so what?
Oh, wow.
He said, no, I knew in that moment that you wanted to have sex with me.
And that was on his side. Like, that's a communication.
Yes, he was sure, and I was just like, get out of here.
It's unclear. It's just not clear. So I think as if we think of ourselves as advanced human beings, we're somewhat evolved, and the ability to be able to say to someone with language, would you be interested in this activity with me? And that person being able to say yes or no. I mean, this is really where we need to lead ourselves to.
Well, that's the problem with some women. They don't have a strong no. So we're going to reintroduce assertive communication soon, because we realize that people just don't know how to say no. They feel like they're going to hurt the man's feelings. That's why all this orgasm faking and all these other things. I mean, there's so much stuff that women do to manipulate, and there's so much stuff that men do to manipulate too, because like nobody's been okay to have a straight conversation.
Yeah.
So now we don't even know if we can say no.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And we can say no. You have the right to say no.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes. No, full stop. But you can also say, and I think you'd agree with this, you can also say yes, and if there comes a moment in time where you become a no, you can then say no. And again, no, full stop. It is a complete sentence. You can actually revoke your consent.
Yeah.
And women, I want you to have that as something that you understand, and that you have full sovereignty and right to express and to exert. You can say no after you've said yes. And men, I want you to understand that no is a complete sentence, and that you honor it. So that's Communication 101, how to ask for consent.
Right.
And then how to give consent.
Right.
And
how to understand what consent actually is.
Yeah, that's super important. And in our next clip, we'll be talking about Communication 102, how to communicate your sexual desires during sex.
Right.
So let's get to that.
How hot?
I can't wait.